Mr. Malema, thank you for this interview.
Thank you.
You sit down today with independent media, independent newspapers. You know that we're the biggest media footprint in South Africa. We are the only black-owned media in this country. So to us, it's a revolutionary interview.
Thank you.
To sit down with yourselves after the 10 years of the existence of the economic freedom fighters. Over the last 10 years, you've given us very explosive interviews. Now you're in this huge building, Winnie Madikizela House. You launched your manifesto at the end of 2023. You're approaching an election that seems to be, for yourselves, a replica of 1994. If you have two things you want to achieve in the 2024 elections, what are those things?
Well, if we can increase the EFF vote beyond 50% and become the government of South Africa, and if not so, then the ANC should not get more than 40%, so that they are forced into a coalition and they have to concede certain principles in that coalition.
Who do you think you would work with should the ANC go under 50? It seems to be going in that direction, of course. Who are your likely coalition partners when you think about it? Would the EFF go with the DA, with Action SA? Would you go with the ANC if they asked you to go into a marriage with them? Or would you go with MK as the popular narrative goes?
Well, we will go with anyone who agrees to the expropriation of land without compensation, which MK agrees to, even before the negotiations. The ANC, to a particular extent, agrees with it. It is led by wrong people, and that's why it has got an inability to implement its own beliefs. And the DA, Action SA, whoever comes and says, let's work together, our first principle, which is non-negotiable, is the expropriation of land without compensation, because the land question is long overdue. It has to be resolved. But we speak to everyone. We don't have that attitude of this is the enemy, number one, number two, can't talk to this one, can't talk to that one. We have an open door policy.
You don't have a moonshot or a sunshot pact or anything like that. You will go with the people who are available to go with you.
Absolutely, when they meet our requirements and demands of expropriation of land without compensation. And the day the people who agree that the land must be expropriated, children must get free education, and all of that, that is the day the Sunrise Pact will rise. Because we are the victims of the sunset clauses, so we need sunrise clauses. It can't be sunset forever. It has been sunset for 30 years. The sun has to rise.
Yeah, but you can't do that without amendment of Section 25 of the Constitution.
Well, so we were doing that. We sponsored a motion in Parliament, in this Parliament, and the motion passed. And we went to public participation, public submissions. Majority of people who participated in that process said, amend Section 25 to expropriate land without compensation. The ANC developed a cold feet right at the door and said we must expropriate without compensation the rotten land. What do you do with the rotten land? It was an act of cowardice. So, because we have been there before, we just need to change the balance of forces to a point where the ANC will be forced to concede, or whoever wants to be the majority in Parliament, and you can't do that without the EFF. They will have to concede on this expropriation of land without compensation.
The elephant in the room is, of course, Mkhonto Wesizwe. The return, maybe to say, of Mkhonto Wesizwe and the return of Mr. Jacob Zuma. You remember you calling me about 20 years ago that I shouldn't publish that picture in the club with you, and DP Floyd and Duduzile Zuma. I don't know, maybe Duduzile Zuma's finally gotten the two of you together. Let's talk about MK. Do you speak to the old man? What is your current relationship with him?
My relationship with the old man is very good. I spoke to the old man. He launched that thing on the 16th of December. We met on the 15th of December, if not the 14th, somewhere there. And he had actually suggested that there should be such an engagement to brief me about then his next political move. And I had a different view. And I said, look, we are here as the EFF, and we think we've got solid structures and good election machinery. We can actually, with your endorsement, make some inroads in difficult areas where we couldn't make inroads before. And that you do what President Mugabe did with Chamisa and says, I'll vote for this young man because I can't vote for people who tormented me. That was not to be, but we agreed that let's go and fight this battle, and we'll meet each other on the other side.
You wanted him to endorse you?
We wanted him to endorse the EFF, and we didn't want him to join the EFF because we never asked Winnie Mandela to join the EFF because we knew that she was ANC through and through, and she was too old to can change anything at that time. And we ran a risk of getting her to join, and after she joins, she says, Viva ANC in a meeting of the EFF, because that's what she knows all her life. So you're like, let's keep her there, but she's no longer there. She's just respecting those she struggled with, and most of them have departed. The same thing with President Zuma. You can't say to Zuma, leave the ANC and join the EFF. And that's why even when he went to the MKP, he said, as I remain a member of the ANC, and I'm going to campaign for MKP. And I find President Mbeki's comments to be very inconsistent. Because for some reason, President Mbeki thinks we didn't know that he was behind the formation of COPE. And for some reason, President Mbeki forgets that he's the one who was saying he will not campaign for the ANC, that he's actually the one who started that kind of language, that he has to be convinced why he must vote for the ANC.
He'll vote with his conscience.
He'll vote with his conscience, and that at some point he was saying his vote is a secret. I think Malema also at some point said something like that his vote is a secret. And today they say, no, we ANC, we're pushing ANC. And you see that, the issue has not been the ANC. They were being factional in their approach. If anything, I think President Zuma is doing what he's doing because he learned it from President Mbeki. It's just that President Mbeki did not have the necessary courage like Zuma and then come out publicly. But everything else he did is exactly what President Zuma is doing, to endorse a particular party. Mbalula used to call him Dalai Lama of COPE.
Yes.
Yeah.
But now, of course, he's sitting on the other side,
Yes.
lambasting Zuma,
Yes.
seeming to be, the Dalai Lama, the holy one there in the corner. On the 29th of May, South Africa has the opportunity to make its decision, right? Assume that many people, more than the EFF, vote for MK. What is your next demand on Zuma? Would you ask him or MK and the EFF to consolidate and make one party? Tell me about some of the conversations there.
Well, there's no need for one party, as long as there is convergence of ideas, even if you come from different parties, because ours in South Africa is a multi-party democracy. And therefore, the existence of other political parties should not be viewed as something that we wish to extinguish, because in doing that, then you would have undermined the latter and the spirit of the Constitution of South Africa. So President Zuma says land, we say land, he says jobs, we say jobs, and many other areas. I may not agree that teenage pregnancy girls
Must go to Robben
must go to
Island.
Robben Island. Where are the boys going when the girls go to Robben Island? Because
Maybe
it takes the two.
Mampuru
But he must tell us that because it takes two to make a baby. So to say girls only must go to Robben Island, it's a discrimination in its own. That's why we never agreed when we were in COSAS that pregnant girls must be chased away from school. Because some of those girls, the people who made them pregnant,
by the same
they
boys.
were in the same school with them.
There, yeah.
She loses her school time, and then the guy progresses. So, but look, I don't think those are the fundamental ideas is married to. We can always engage about that.
In my assessment, the EFF and the MKP differ on three key policies, if you will. You differ on the LGBTQI question.
Absolutely.
Zuma's statement in the last week or so that he will have to review that policy has had members of that community up in arms, and it's a community you have endorsed and showed support to. Even outside the embassy of Uganda in Pretoria, you wore the rainbow scarf as a symbol of solidarity with that community.
Absolutely.
The second would be the open border system. Perhaps to your lamentation, you've said foreigners who then find themselves out of the country must find creative ways to come back into South Africa. I don't know if you've had rethoughts about those sentiments. And then, of course, the final question would be such as the girls and the boys, as you say. Has the EFF reconsidered its approach on the open border system?
No, let's start with the LGBTQ plus communities. What are the bases? On which ideological basis do you ground that argument? Is grounded on which ideology? Because there's no any other ideology which is progressive internationally that suggests as a progressive political party, maybe worse in the left, you should not allow LGBTQ plus. And my memory doesn't serve me well. Like you said, it was so many years ago where we were in a club with Dudu and them and all of that. But if I'm not wrong, President Zuma has got a child who is part of the LGBTQ plus communities. I'm not sure, and I don't know how he navigates that point at home, because my son once confronted me and said, I hear the EFF doesn't want white people. I said, what do you mean? They said, no, you're going to chase everybody to the sea. I said, no, I can't do that. I mean, he said, no, I was worried because I've got white friends. So I will have to battle, if I want to chase white people out of South Africa, I will have to battle it first at home. And there are certain things that you just know you can't win, and you stand a chance of being embarrassed by those. We are not far from President Zuma on the foreign policy. There's a talk here of illegal immigrants, and I think his emphasis is on that. But he is not the kind who can say Africans must not come into South Africa, because we are one continent, and he advocated for that himself. He stayed in Zimbabwe, he stayed in Swaziland, he stayed in Mozambique, he was in Lusaka and everywhere else, including Angola, if I'm not wrong. So he's the last person. If anything, he's the one who should be advocating for this, because he practically and personally benefited out of the hospitality of Africans. And there's no way, everybody understands the EFF argument. Do you know that Venda was a republic, Leboa was a republic, Uputatswana was a republic, and KwaZulu-Natal and all of that, including Seskans, Bantustans. You needed a passport to go to Venda. We collapsed the borders in Venda that and said, no more, we are one thing, we are one South Africa, because we're always made to imagine us being different people, the same way they make us believe now. After the collapse of vendors, of the border, we never experienced the influx of vendors into Johannesburg. The people of Bembe are still there. You will find them. It's not an abandoned land because they saw greener pastures in Johannesburg. They said, we're no longer staying here, we're going to Johannesburg. What these people are saying is a swargevaar. It is threatening, intimidating South Africans that you are actually going to have more in your yard if these people are going to come here, which is practically impossible. Why would the people of Mozambique leave Mozambique? Because they are doing relatively well. Why would the people of Swaziland, and you know what is even worse is that the Swaziland people would have left without Malema, because there's nothing there, nothing fiscal that can prevent them. The same thing with Lesotho. The people of Lesotho, it's Friday today. Tomorrow, if you go at the border of Lesotho and South Africa, there's no fence. They come drink this side during the day, at night go back. There are others in Lesotho who are now receiving SASA. Yeah, in South Africa.
I lived in Botswana many years.
Yes.
You'd go to a funeral in South Africa.
Yeah.
You know, the funeral would be here, but you'd be eating in the Botswana side.
Yes.
You just cross.
Yes.
Khomo is in the side of Botswana. The borders don't seem to exist.
Yes.
But are you not advocating for illegality with that statement? They must find creative ways to come into South Africa. What are creative ways? Crossing the river? Surely there must be a type of border, not a colonial system, but a type of referendum to say, do you have the necessary papers for the instances of planning? Because the women will be here, they need to take the kids to hospital, for schools, you know, for urban planning and development. There needs to be a quantity of how many people require medication in Joburg. If government doesn't have that plan, it's going to be a disaster. Do you regret those comments?
No. Why don't you require documents to go to KwaZulu-Natal and you're coming from here and you have nothing there in KwaZulu-Natal, and then you are going to collapse and get sick in KwaZulu-Natal and affect their budget? Why is that not a requirement? What is different between you and these people who are there? Why can't we develop a policy that says, if we're to treat a Lesotho a citizen in South Africa, or Swaziland or Nigeria, once confirmed that this is a citizen of this particular country, these are the credentials, we treat this person and then we invoice their country. Why should we have a hospital and then be worried that sick people are going to be sick and then influx our hospital? Don't be worried about influx. You must be worried with healing people so that you save humanity. And the only way you can heal people is when you've got your own planning, but you know that in case other people come from outside, you always provide an invoice to those countries that they come from. That has been African planning, by the way. Those things you are saying is Eurocentric planning. You are talking about a funeral and a cow. You plan for 100 people, 700 people comes, and you never say, this is not part of me. No, you always know. We embrace.
There's no RSVP, Kaspi.
No, we embrace each other. We don't need invitation from each other. The Europeans are doing it. The people who are advocating for us not to do it, there is no border in Europe. You wake up in Milan and then you go and eat breakfast in Paris and have your lunch in Germany. With ease, without any paper, without talking to anyone. My brother, you're sitting here, you've got an idea, these people are not listening to you. Wake up one morning, get into a car, go and make that presentation in Zimbabwe, in Mozambique, in Angola, without knowing their language, but with a brilliant idea. Before you know it, you are a citizen there, you're working there, they embrace you. So the poor do not have the necessary means actually to can even leave their countries to come here. Most of the people you see here is the people who had the means to come here. But worse, because we're going to Easter and I've got a property just next to N1 to Zimbabwe, I can't get out of my property. with these people going back home. These are the people who you say they influx to our country. They are not here to stay. They are here to make the means, and they go back to their homes. They are never here to stay. They are never here to occupy your land. They are never here to take away from you.
One argument says, when the Malawans and the Zimbabweans go back home, who is going to work here? Because there will be no staffing in Gauteng, right? The restaurants, the hotels are all foreign HR. Those are the foreign hands that we use. The counter argument is that it will be empty because these people come and work. Many of them do work that South Africans don't necessarily want to do. Are you in line with that argument? That,
no.
That foreigners are not stealing jobs in South Africa?
No. The argument that when they leave our restaurants on people and all of that, it's not entirely correct, because they are hired by restaurants with an intention to pay very minimum wages, and they don't want to spend on workers. So if they leave tomorrow and South Africans who are interested to go and work, they will go and work. The problem is going to be for the bosses, because South Africans are not going to accept a minimum wage. They will want wages that speak to their lifestyle, that speaks to their living conditions and qualifications. So bosses don't want to pay. The problem is not Zimbabweans. They don't hire themselves in the restaurants. They don't hire themselves in our houses. Most of these domestic workers are from Lesotho. It doesn't mean South Africans can't do that. But the South Africans are going to demand a certain amount of money, and people are reluctant to pay. I've got a restaurant, I've got a farm, I've got a butcher in a township. You will not find a single foreigner, because I've not, the skills I've been looking for, right? When I looked for those skills in South Africa, there was no way I couldn't find them. So I found those skills in South Africa, and therefore there was no need for me to go outside. If I had looked for a skill and I didn't find, there was absolutely nothing wrong with me to go outside and get the people with the skill to come and work here in South Africa.
What does Malema look like at the age of 50? You're in
50.
early 40s now. I mean,
43.
When you imagine Malema at 50, is he in his second term of presidency? Is he the leader of SA government? Is he the chair of the AU? Or is he still a freedom fighter? Generally in the streets of South Africa, he's the man in red. We saw the Beyonce when you erupted on that stage at FNB.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
my partner said to me, she says, look, he's going to go up.
Yeah.
He's going to go up. And I said, he won't. And then you erupted there on the
She was so smart.
The hydraulics elevator. He says she watches a lot of Beyonce. So she says, he's going to go up now. So who's Julius at 50?
Well, I'll still be a member of the EFF in good standing. The EFF will still be there. Whether I will still be the president of the EFF or not, that will be the decision of the conferences of the EFF, elective conference of the EFF. And at 50, I will still be playing a role, whether in parliament or in government. But I don't see myself going at 50. I'll still be the younger version and look much younger than now, Tambo. So there's absolutely no issue there. And I've got a very relatively young wife. I've got a relatively young boys. No, young boys. I mean, one is 6, the other one is 7, and the oldest is doing matric now. So I'll still be that father who is there for his kids, and then the activist of the EFF who's there for the people of South Africa. I'm not driven by an uncontrollable desire to be a president of South Africa or deputy president or anything of that sort. I will always serve, and I will always be an activist, even when I go on retirement. If it was for me at 55, and everybody's opposed to that, including my wife, retirement would not mean I can't make a contribution to the discourse and issues that are affecting our people. Beyond 55 years, I see myself playing a much, much more bigger role in the continent because there's no, high-profile person who's still advocating for Pan-Africanism and African Renaissance and the unity of our continent. And our people are receiving it so well. The problem is that it doesn't reach other corners, and then they only hear one message, which is of hate and unity, and division. Why am I hated for saying people must unite? For saying, let's come to, I'm not saying let's divide. I'm saying let's unite. Instead of being called a unifier, who seeks to unify humanity, not only in Africa, in the whole world. No, why do you bring these people? Oh, these people are going to do this, these people are going to do that. Why? Since when is a unifier the enemy of the people and the enemy of peace-loving South Africans, people who advocate for prosperity, for international solidarity with the downtrodden? Why do you now characterize me in a manner you characterize me? It is not my people who say the things that you are saying about me in relation to this question. It is those who enjoy out of the division of our people. They know that the unity of Africa is going to rescue the minerals they've been stealing in DRC and making Eastern DRC look like it's Rwanda, and those people don't deserve to be there. But if there is no border of Rwanda and DRC, who will say these ones are there? There's a conflict there which can only be resolved by collapse of borders, where people no longer see others as coming from the other side. That is unity. We're not collapsing borders for criminality. So when I said creative ways, I simply said, this is your home. No one can stop you. The same way, these ones who are in government who are talking nonsense today, they found the creative way to enter these countries. They didn't go there with an aeroplane. They didn't go with a passport. They all found creative ways. And it goes for all of them. There's no single one of them who has been there outside and who can say, I've been outside because I was on a church trip to Mozambique. No. Including many others. I mean, Paul Mashatile, was not in exile, but he has been in and out of the country. He has been to the camps to get briefing from leadership, do this, come back. Castle Matale left the country through creative means, Deputy Minister of Police, through creative means. And then when he arrived in a camp of the PAC and he was looking for the ANC. He couldn't understand the language. And as we were speaking, those people were saying, but you sound more ANC than what we are doing. He said, yeah, but I was looking for the ANC. They sent him back to South Africa. He didn't go with a passport. So what are you talking about? But that didn't make him to go and settle there.
It sounds like you're almost going to say the only one that didn't go to the camps was Cyril. The only one that didn't go.
No, he went. Cyril went to the camp, but with an aeroplane and passport. Okay. Yes. It was after those things of release of Mandela. Remember Mandela, when he came out, he also visited some camps. And so Cyril went under those. He didn't go through the means.
Creative means.
The whites took him there.
Okay. Closing shot on Cyril Ramaphosa. South Africa is in a crisis. The Takatso deal has collapsed. SAA was sold for 51 rand. By the gentleman you told me years ago was spying on you. Remember, was sitting in Cape Town. You told me when Unalingwanyana in the hotel, Pravin used to put listening devices and listen. Hey, Musimano, better one round, 45 minutes. So now the Katso deal has collapsed, but we're in crisis.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about this? First of all, SA, then you talk to me about ESCOM, which perhaps is an even bigger collapse than SAA.
Well, Cyril has finished his job. His job was to come and destroy these things. So what you do is, make them look like they are not functional, they are not profitable, they are not successful. So that by the time you go to sell them, the public is like, we've been spending money on these things, they are useless. They did that with SAA, they did that with PRASA, they are doing that with Transnet. And they want to privatize ESCOM as well. Because everybody now is angry with ESCOM. We don't get electricity, load shedding. You've made people angry enough to can now say to them, because we don't have electricity, let's shift this into the private hands. You know, Tepo, who did the Tagalo deal, it's a good and astute businessman, man of integrity, a black brother who succeeded in his own right. The problem is that he gets robbed by Pravin into some nonsensical deal. And now his image is questionable. They didn't only destroy SAA, they destroyed the image of a good, successful African story in Tepo. So Pravin and Cyril were serving the same agenda to come and collapse our institution.
Who sent them?
It's white monopoly capital. It's white monopoly capital. It's the Rupert, it's the Oppenheimers. Remember, Rupert has got now a license to produce energy for us. If this ESCOM collapses, it will be buying electricity from Rupert, from Patrice Motsepe, and others. So it is going to be, electricity is going to be sold like bread, you know, and then only those who can afford it will get that electricity. And then the day Rupert, because he's a heavy drinker and a smoker, wakes up hangover, he says, switch off that electricity. And they switch it off. They switch it off like it's his own house, switching off the plug. It's an individual-owned thing. You cannot put a strategic sector of our economy and of our livelihood into the hands of individuals. Electricity and its generation and distribution, it must be the sole responsibility of the state, because no individual must do a favor to us. The same thing with railway line. When you say you are privatizing railway lanes and all of that, one day we wake up on the railway lane to KZN. The owner decided to take the railway lane away. The trains are there, but there's no railway lane. So rather own the railway lane and give them locomotives. Okay, private sector wants to participate, that's fine. You can provide locomotives, but on my own road. The same thing with the roads. We build huge, big, beautiful roads through public partnership with the private sector. We can even toll them. We don't believe in this thing of free everything. We can even toll them, not e-tolls, proper tolling of roads. So we pay this private partner the money he has invested into this project back, and then ask him after 30 years to leave our road alone. And then we don't do away with the toll gate. The toll gate now goes into the fiscus.
Okay. Parting shot, you said many years ago, Pravin almost destroyed your life.
Well, Pravin has always had a problem with me. You know, when we came from Polokwane, we went on to lead the Youth League and the ANC. We were being followed by Pravin's established rock unit at SARS. And one of the boys who was part of the rock unit, he was young, highly trained boy from the special task forces in the army and all of that, came to join that unit. He realizes when we're in Durban that the people he's spying on are the people that he loves and supports. And his conscience wouldn't allow him. And when he went back to say, but this is the leadership, we cannot do this and that, they said, no, you must be removed from the post. So he brought me everything that they were doing. I took that fine because I was too young and naive to SARS. I gave it to Pillay and Mahashula. Then we had a meeting, me, Pillay, and Mahashula. We finished. When we finished, they said, no, there is someone who wants to see you. But it will be a brief thing, don't worry. I said, no, no problem. A white man with big hair walks in, he greets me, takes me into a separate boardroom, and then he says, man, we have a problem. What is the problem? The problem is that your taxes are not compliant. Therefore, you have to, come back and sort out your taxes so that you are on a clean slate and all of that. So I said, no, no problem. Give me that. He gives me that. I go back to the meeting to say to Mahashula and Pillay, no, it's fine. I met this guy. He raises some issues. Let me leave. They said to me, yeah, it shouldn't be a big issue because we helped President Zuma with his taxes. So even even a small amount will help you. Pillay is a comrade, blah, blah. So I left. Then I didn't attend to those things because I knew what they were doing. They were silencing me. They were saying to me, move away from the rogue unit. And they couldn't silence me. So I fought. And when I fought, they came back to fight me very hard. And then that's when I had problems in the ANC as well. Then got expelled. Then got my properties attached by SARS and all of that. Then they made a mistake of leaving a farm, which I was using to produce cabbages. I was farming cabbages and tomato and all of that. And then, boom, one day some City Press journalist comes to interview me in my farm. Like, you're now out in the cold, what are you doing? So we take an interview in the farm.
And it was during the elective conference of the ANC?
No, after. It's because he interviewed me on Wednesday, Thursday, and then that Saturday was January 8th of the ANC. So the ANC was so spoiled that their January 8th, that's why it's Saturday, Sunday, all papers must be front page. I became front page of City Press instead of January 8th. And then Praveen on Monday, they went crazy at SARS offices. Why does he still have a farm and all manner of things? And then that's when they came to take my farm. So, and I had said to them, well, don't expel me, leave me with the membership, but you can suspend me for 10 years from occupying any position, both in the ANC and in government. Because I always knew I'll go into farming. Then they expelled me. I said, guys, I'm done. I'm going to farming. Then I left these political things and then I went into farming. Then Praveen came to fetch me in the farm. That's why we're here today. If there's anyone to be blamed for this, it's Praveen and Seren.
Yeah. If anyone is to be blamed for 80,000 people at FNP,
yes,
it's Praveen.
They were mobilized by Praveen and Seren.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Malema. It's been good to chat with you. Good luck on the elections. Do you trust the integrity and the independence of the IEC now that the MK and the ANC lists have leaked from within the IEC?
Well, it shouldn't be a big issue. Our IEC is one institution that is credible and has been running elections for some time now, and in a very diligent manner. There's nothing called perfect. There will always be those rogue elements, which the IEC, when exposed, it doesn't hesitate to act on those people. In 2014, there was almost violence in Alexandra when the EFF contested elections for the first time. Then the EFF fighters said the EFF is robbed, the ANC was given wrong votes, blah, blah. I said, no problem, give me the stations where the EFF was robbed. They gave me the stations. Then I said to them, give me the party agents of the EFF who were in those stations. There were no party agents of the EFF. So I said, how do you know you were robbed when you didn't have a party agent? So you think election is traitor. You think election is Facebook. You think election is Maunela, sitting under the tree, talking about how much you are going to win. And then that which you are talking about, Lenela, must be the results. I said, no. And because they were not listening to me, I drove from Polokwane to IEC Operation Center, called a press conference, accepted the outcome of the results. So I want to win, and I want to dispute these elections and put up a fight, but it must be on facts, not on emotions. Elections have got a potential to cause a civil war. It cannot be that we are going to get into a civil war because you simply lost. Elections must never mean blood in Africa. Elections must never mean guns in Africa. And that's why I don't agree with that narrative. What we are busy with now is to always make sure we oil the election machinery of the EFF. This is how this thing is so transparent of elections. Counting happens at the voting station where you voted. After counting, the result slip must be put outside the door of a counting station. Your party agent must go and take that result slip, a picture, and send to the EFF National Operations Center. The EFF then takes that into their own system. Then you get your actuaries to come and consolidate those things. They know how. Those are the best brains. They consolidate your numbers. Then they take the results of the IEC, they match them. What you have in the EFF must speak to what the IEC has. And if there is a discrepancy, the actuaries then say there is a discrepancy of 300,000 votes, and then the discrepancy is in the following voting stations. This voting station said EFF 200, but the IEC on the same voting station says 20. So they just removed 0. Then you've got scientific evidence, which you can go to electoral court and have the results overturned. And the electoral court is an agent court. That's why I said to you, you have no reason to cause violence. You've got a recourse. A violence is necessitated by the absence of recourse. So we've got a recourse. Then we go to the electoral court. We show them all of that. Done. And my experience with the IEC is that once you show them the discrepancy in terms of what is the actual receipt slip saying and what they have captured, they are quick to amend that. They go check everyone. They're like, no, the actual one is this one, not this one. They change it. So I'm not going to join. I'm very, very vigilant with the IEC. I always fight with them about SATU people who occupy political offices and then still become presiding officers when they heard that SATU said all teachers must go and vote for the ANC. So their response was simple, which is what our members must do. We are going to publish a list of presiding officers. You have a duty to object. Again, no emotions, no Twitter, trending, no facts. When you say they are SATU people, who are these people? Where are they found? Why? And we find a SATU chairperson or secretary or treasurer. Once you find them there, you go look for them in the internet, in the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google. You are going to find him making stupid statements. Internet doesn't forget. Now, because he wants to be a IEC presiding officer to push a narrative of stealing votes, he says, no, I'm neutral, I'm not. You just simply go into the internet. You're going to find the bastard. Then you say, Bambalomut. This one must be arrested and removed from a voting station. So I'm very vigilant. I've put as required by the Constitution, party agents everywhere. And the good thing with this receipt slip thing, is that if you've got actuaries, you've got an operation center where these things get captured, and then reconciliation can be made quickly. But there is this voting station, you don't have a party agent, and you don't know the results. You are able to call the voting station next to that one and say, drive to that voting station. Outside the door, you are going to find the result slip. Take it a picture and send it to us. The result slip comes with the VD number of that voting station. Take it a picture. So with us having presence all over South Africa, it becomes easy to get all the voting stations results, reconcile them, and then wait for the IEC. Once the IEC releases, we reconcile and we say, no, this is wrong. And it doesn't mean burning down of IEC offices, even when we find evidence of wrongdoing. It means we now go to a neutral court, because our judiciary is very, very independent. The problem is this man who's the Chief Justice.
Raymond Zondo.
Yeah, that guy, when he leaves that thing, he must be arrested. He must be properly and thoroughly investigated for having engaged in actions that almost compromised and collapsed our judiciary. But I know what judiciary can do for democracy. It has worked for me. When Pravin was coming for me, it is the courts were asking questions. But why? But sequestrate him, take him out of parliament. Now they've taken my farmer back. I'm in parliament. Still, take him out of parliament, sequestrate him. The judge says, why do you want to sequestrate him? We must go and recover the money that he owes us. The judge says, but the Sequestration Act is much more weaker than the SARS Act, which has got more powers and the capacity to can unearth more than what you are going to get through the Sequestration Act. Therefore, I agree with this argument that you are using your power to take him out of parliament. You are not looking for money. I know what the judiciary can do until Zondo came. And I'm happy I didn't vote for Zondo. I'm happy Zondo got 2 votes out of men and women. For sure it's his vote and Lamola or something, I don't know. But 2 votes. And still Cyril went to appoint him. Where have you ever had a head of a judiciary? And these legal bodies and these lawyers don't report him to Judicial Service Commission, because if we
NGOs
do,
are quiet.
the NGOs, they are quiet, they don't report him there. Where have you ever had a judge saying, yo, it was good for Cyril Ramaphosa to be elected the president of the ANC, not country, ANC. A judge is commenting on internal political matters of the ANC. He's a branch, he's a member. When he says it was good for Cyril to be elected president of the country, blah, that's fine. It's the 2 arms of the state showing each other respect and reaffirming each other and building confidence. But party politics, by that alone, when Mogoeng was made to publicly apologize for his comment about
on an international
matter,
or a foreign politics matter,
on Israel, and his personal views on Israel, he was made by the JSC to withdraw or apologize, otherwise there were serious consequences. He did exactly that, even though it was against his beliefs. That is the power of the Jews. Here is a man at the highest office who says, yo, the ANC has elected a very good president. He says our organization, in a way. Why must I be concerned? Even me, I'm not concerned who the ANC elect. It's none of my business. Where's a judge giving a political opinion? So, what rescued us from this judiciary from being collapsed is because his term is coming to an end and we can't wait for him to go. But we must not leave him. We must follow him, this guy. We must follow him for having brought judiciary into disrepute. And this is the guy who deserves to be impeached by Parliament. So we in the judiciary, we still have elements of whites who are anti-black.
Transformation.
And anything black-owned, especially in the private sector, they will kill it. But it's not all of them. It's here and there and all of, and we know them, some of us. When they come to interviews at the JSC, we always are not hesitant to put it to them. Are you a racist? Do you think this judgment, what language is this? What are you using? So I said to you, remember when we started, there is nothing called perfect. But our judiciary, we can work with what we have. They want to capture it daily. And it is these men and women, especially those ones of Pretoria North, who are firm on the law and not on personalities.
Final words on Mbeki. You said, he seems to think that we did not exist when he formulated COPE. His sentiments against Zuma and this election, very pro-ANC, anti-Zuma, speaking at UNISA 2 days ago. He seems, of course, to now be a martyr, as if under his reign and leadership there were no mistakes, there were no accidents, when in fact load shedding started under him and many other things. What are your comments on that?
Well, it is their own internal ANC matter. The ANC members are throwing each other with a snake. So I really don't want to enter. Like I said, he shouldn't behave like he has never been part of any other thing outside the ANC. Phumzile was not going to go there without his approval. Mbazimashlo was not going to go there without his approval. Smarts Ngonyama was not going to go there without his approval. The Nkutlu brothers, who have now since departed, may their souls rest in peace, they will not have gone there without his approval, and all of that. So
it was not perfect under his reign.
No, it was not. I mean,
not for people who were HIV infected. Not
no,
for
the
people
ordinary
who were against
people
him in government.
The levels of inequalities increased under him. The levels of poverty increased under him, and then we started experiencing unemployment growing under him. Although the economy was growing, it was unable to trickle down to ordinary men and women in South Africa. So to say the problem started under Zuma, it's not entirely correct. President Mbeki must learn to take responsibility on some of the issues that he knows very well. And they are proven. You see the thing with load shedding. You can just go back to check. It will tell you date and time when it started and because of what, where, and who was the president. So it shouldn't be that he now wants to create an impression that ANC is everything else. That is the problem with these old people of the ANC who become presidents, and then they don't know what they are going to do after being president. So Zuma's strategy was a very good strategy. It's just that he left under the cloud and then he was in conflict with the law. But when he finished and all these things were not there, he was supposed to just go to Nkandla. When he exits Nkandla, it's when he goes on a mission.
But maybe he did. Maybe he did. And like you, Zondo.
No. He did, but he went home with those things. And it's not like me. I was not on retirement. Zuma was on retirement. So he went on retirement with these things. And then they had to call him back to ask him, what is this, what is this? So, but that strategy of Zuma was good to go back. That strategy of Mandela was good to go back. This strategy of staying in Kilani and seeing headlines every day on the polls, the temptation to want to rule from the grave will always be there. It's not good for former presidents to be addressing each other in a manner they are doing. President Mbeki, highly respected, very clued up on economics and African matters. The continent needs him there. He can easily avoid internal politics and go and facilitate peace in many other parts of the continent and go around giving lectures like he was doing at UNISA without necessarily interfering with internal matters. That is statesmanship. So for him to be partisan the way it is and saying he's going to campaign for the ANC and this is his ANC and all of that, as a statesman, we should all be going to him, irrespective of his political party, to seek his wisdom.
Because now he becomes an elder of society.
He's supposed to be an elder, not a player. So President Mbeki enters now the playing field. And when he enters the playing field, we're going to have to play against him. That's an invitation he's making. The elderly thing now stands aside. You come back into politics and you come back as active. He has never left politics. He will never leave politics. But not as an active player in the local politics. We need statesmanship. We need elders in the country, not only in the ANC. Like Mokhwe, when they said he was going to form a party, I was like, but he doesn't have to do anything of that sort. Musenek. Those are elderly people that if anything goes wrong now, they are going to rock up at anyone's door who's causing a problem. And they will receive the attention of such people. But if anything goes wrong, President Mbeki rocks up. We say, but you took side. You can't come now and want to tell us what to do because you took side. We must all find comfort in him and not see him as a factional role player in the current dynamics, not only internally in the ANC, but also in the build-up to elections. It means he's going to say things that we're going to have to respond to him, and we won't hesitate to do that.
Some members of the EFF on social media refer to Chief Justice Raymond Zondo as Barry White, and then some of them call him Comrade Zondo. They say, Amara Comrade.
Yeah, he's a comrade. He's a comrade. He's an ANC comrade, full. Only ANC members will celebrate an election of their member, of their president. It's not our business when we are not members of the ANC or supporters of the ANC. In the JSC, we always say it's not correct for judges to show their political affiliations, although judges are voters. There is a judge who came, and it's Moshabi, I forgot, Raulinga, who said, yeah, I vote for the ANC. And Chief Justice Mokhwe was, they said, no, you can't say that. It doesn't matter who you vote for, but you're not going to come here as a judge and use that platform to say the things you are saying. Don't you think you have to withdraw and apologize? He withdrew that. And it was not me, it was the Chief Justice said, no, but you can't. You can be ANC, I mean, judges are voting. But you cannot put it the way you're putting it. It was reckless. And he was told during the interview, this EFF people must find it, of Judge Raulinga, where he was called to order, saying he's voting for the ANC. Go and put this thing on the wires. Because people, when we speak, they just say, we're talking nonsense. He was called to order there and there. Why is Zondo not being called to order for celebrating internal political victories of a certain faction?
Should be taken to task. Okay. Thank you, Mokone.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
How does your weekend look like?
We are now going to the EFF Election Operations Center. We've established state-of-the-art Election Operations Center here in Johannesburg, in Auckland Park. I think at the right time, they will call the media to come and inspect it. And then tomorrow, I'm in Rustenburg for the Provincial Election Manifesto. And then Sunday, I'm in Metsimaholo, Sasolburg, for EFF Free State Election Manifesto launch.
Okay. So there's no time in Hyde Park?
No, the time in Hyde Park will always be there. Hyde Park, you mean where I stay?
Yeah.
They will, you know, you can be any busy politician, but never be busy for your wife and your children. Otherwise, you'll experience what Zuma is experiencing with Duduzane. You cannot have that kind of a relationship with your children. And the only way to have a good relationship with them is that under whatever circumstances, you have to make time available. And just say to them, my son is 17 years old now, doing matric. I still ask him, how was it at school? What have you done today? So he feels accountable. He feels this guy cares. And that's why in his 5 years in high school, I was never called to school that he has misbehaved about this or that, because he knows
they can't call
he's gone
to a school.
Not
how can they, when the red parades arrive?
It's not true. It's not true. You know, if there are any people who are not scared of anything, it's teachers and principals. So if my child doesn't write homework, they must be, you think they will be scared too? If they're scared, they will write a note.
Just imagine you and Marshal Jamin coming into the school with the backup there.
But I go to the school without. I go to the school without anything. I went now to the assembly where my son, the second born, was receiving his 20th merit for this year. And then they said the parent must come. The mother was not there. I was here. I went. I go to the school and I always tell the security, when we enter the schoolyard, you must never come anywhere close to me. Whatever you do, play very far, because I don't want to cause scene here, and I don't want these children to be feeling uncomfortable. Because now I'm doing my parental duties. I don't mix with them. So I'm going to Rustenburg. I'll be waking up in Hyde Park to Rustenburg, and then I'm going to Free State in Sasolburg. My house and family is in Hyde Park. What good reason do I have to come from Rustenburg, pass my family, go and sleep in Metsima Hall, which is 1 hour away from my house? This gives me an opportunity, busy as it is. I should be able to go in, see them before they sleep. If I miss that, then see them in the morning before I leave. There must never be a vacuum, because a vacuum is what the Boers did with Nelson Mandela. Look at Mandela stays in prison for 27 years. Today, Mandela this, children of Mandela this, children of Mandela that. Today, the African family is dysfunctional because the Boers took the fathers to Johannesburg and left the women in Mahlabatini. And they only get to see their husbands after every 8 months or so if they are lucky. And the family unit becomes dysfunctional, society becomes dysfunctional. I'm a child of a single mother, and I don't know my father. And I always grew up without having my father, but I always knew there's something missing here. And I vowed to never be an absent father.
Right. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.